All
right, guys, we're live. Welcome, everyone. This is Tejas here from Aussizz Group in Adelaide. This is a session regarding weekly updates on different migration topics. So, in this session, we'll be covering up topics related to partner visas, skill migration, employer-sponsored visas, parent visas, and any effect of COVID-19 on the visa process. So we've got Mr. Vaibhav from Sydney, Mrs. Vishali from Adelaide, Daminder from Perth, and Neerav from Melbourne office joining us live. We'll be covering up different topics. Feel free to post your questions in the comments section. We'll be covering up some of the comments as well. So we'll be covering different topics. So people who are joining, welcome. Good evening. We'll be discussing different topics of skill migration, employer-sponsored partner visa, parents visa, and the changes of the current visa processes because of the COVID-19. So hello, everyone. I'll start with Vaibhav. Let's talk about the employer-sponsored. So Vaibhav, do you have any changes in the employer-sponsored segment for our viewers?
Okay, Tejas. So there is no major changes in terms of the requirements for employer sponsorship visas. I'll still walk you through the requirements for employer sponsorship, which is mainly there are three visas, 482, 186, and 494. But before I jump into it, the only recent change that I've seen is the way the department processed the applications. Now they've started asking a lot of questions about one of the criteria, which is a genuineness of the position. That I will be talking into the explanation section of the 482. And the second part is the processing time. So the processing time has gone a little bit up because I guess the department is working from home. That could be one of the reasons. And we have seen a quite big jump in the processing time. So we used to have 482 visa processed in 2 to 4 weeks or so. But nowadays it's been 3 weeks or more, but there is no update, right? So there are mainly three employer sponsorship visas, 482, where the applicant has to prove that they have got at least 2 years of full-time work experience and relevant skills and qualification for the nominated occupation. This visa is three-stage visa. So the first one is a sponsorship, second one is a nomination, and the third one is the visa application. In the sponsorship application, the company has to provide an evidence after lodging an application for an approval that they are operating lawfully in Australia. And mainly they have to provide their registration documents and financial documents. Second one is a nomination where the company has to provide an evidence that they tried to hire an Australian citizen by advertising the position. And if they're not able to find a suitable candidate, then only they can go ahead and sponsor a candidate for a 482 visa. And in nomination, the company also have to provide an evidence that the employee and employer and employee has an agreement between both of them, and minimum salary has to be 53,900 or more if the market rate is more for that particular occupation. The company also have to provide an explanation on how they operate, what is the business profile, and where does this position fit within the business scope, and how this position is going to help business grow. And also explain the financial ability that the company will be able to pay the nominee this proposed salary for 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, depending on the visa that they're going to apply for. Like let's say they're intending to get 2 years visa, then they have to show that they will be able to pay at least 2 years, right? Now, in generally a genuineness position where the department usually was not very strict recently, but now I guess because of the COVID-19, many Australians have lost a job. So they are asking more questions in this now that how, while other Australians are not getting a job, why did you not, hire an Australian citizen? And you're claiming that you're not able to find a suitable candidate for this role. Explain in detail, right? So that can come through if you're applying for a 482 visa right now. But overall, as I said,
however, do you think that genuineness is on specific occupations, you reckon, or is just across the board?
That is pretty much across all the fields. But if you talk about highly skilled positions, they're not very fussy. Like let's say highly skilled positions would be IT occupations, engineering occupations, even nursing. They're quite easy right now because obviously we need nurses in Australia at the moment, and even they're open for 407, 482, 408 other visas as well, which is very easy to get the visa through, right? Now coming back to the 482 visa, the 482 visa has two occupation lists. Excuse me. So the short-term list where the applicant can only get 2 years visa, and there is no pathway for a permanent visa to subclass 186 TRT student if your occupation is on a short-term list. And there is one more called medium and long-term skilled occupation list where you can get up to 4 years of visa depending on the company's nomination, whether the company has nominated you for 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years. And there is a pathway to a permanent visa through 186 TRT stream. Now, second visa is 186, where the applicant has to first find an employer who's willing to sponsor. Again, similar process to 482, but there are only 2 stages in this one. Number one is a nomination, where the company has to again provide an evidence that they tried to look for an Australian citizen, they couldn't find any suitable person, and therefore they are sponsoring an employee from overseas. They will also have to provide an employment agreement similar to 482. They also have to provide an explanation. They also have to provide an evidence of lawful operation in Australia, as well as ability to pay the employee or the nominee for a proposed period, at least 2 years, right? And the applicant, as an applicant, so the next stage is the visa application, where as an applicant, the visa applicant will have to prove that they have at least competent English, which is IELTS 6 each or equivalent. They have at least 3 years of full-time employment in the nominated role or closely related role. And the applicant must have at least positive skills assessment as well for the same nominated occupation. So this is 186 visa, and 186 visa under the direct entry stream, that's a direct permanent visa. And the last one is a 494 visa. So 494 is for people or the employer who is located in a regional area. So the employers who are facing a skills shortages in regional Australia, they can sponsor for 482. Now the process is quite similar to 494, which is now the process is quite similar to 482 visa, where the company has to apply for a sponsorship, again proving that they're operating lawfully in Australia by providing their registration documents, financial documents. Then the company has to apply for a nomination. And now the nomination application, there are plenty of occupation because it's a regional visa. The number of occupations are very high. So there is a broad range of occupations to select from. Even retail manager, let's say, for example, a lot of people had applied for 187 visa in the past who had visa refusals for 187 as a retail manager. Now they want to actually apply for 494. Very good opportunity for them. So because there is a big number allocated for a visa, like the quota has been very high. And and obviously, as I said, in nomination, the company can nominate any occupation from that huge list. And the company has to also again provide the same evidence that they tried to hire an Australian citizen for this role. They couldn't find anybody. That's why they're sponsoring. Have to provide an employment agreement. They also have to provide an explanation on how the business works, how this position fits into the business, and provide an evidence that they will be able to pay the employee or nominee for proposed period, which is at least 3 years, I would say, right? And then this 494 visa is for 5 years. After working 3 years with the employer and earning minimum 53,900 per year, you can apply for 191 visa, and that would be a permanent visa. So these are the major 3 categories. Now there are labor agreements as well. So if you know, like let's say truck drivers can also apply for 482 visa in labor agreement through if they're working under the agriculture industry. Also, there are DAMA agreements in Northern Territory and other areas where in South Australia as well, I guess, if I'm not wrong, Vishali can confirm that, right, Vishali?
Yeah, there is one.
Yeah, so there is a DAMA agreement in South Australia as well. There are DAMA agreement in New South Wales and Victoria as well, in certain regional areas. So
what do farmers do? Do farmers come under any of the categories?
Yes, so if the farmers have, they can apply for the visa under the labor agreement, or they can apply for the visas under the DAMA agreement if they fall under the DAMA, right? Even as I said, the truck drivers can apply. So I had a client who is a truck driver working in the regional area and as a truck driver only for the company which produces and distributes the fruit, like obviously the agriculture products like let's say fruits and etc. Right? So this guy can obviously easily apply for a. So his company had to apply for a nomination first and get a labor agreement approval first, and then nominate him for the 482 visa. And then this visa also has an option to apply for a 186 visa later on. So this would be a very good option as well if you're working under certain industries, and specifically in regional areas, or let's say areas like Northern Territory or South Australia where the DAMA agreements are there. Even New South Wales has it. Even Victoria has it in Warrnambool. So different regional areas have different agreements. but you have to see if you fall under that agreement. You can also apply for 482 or 186 as well in certain cases under the agreements, which is labor agreement, sorry, and 494 if you're in regional area. So these are the options somebody would have if they want to go for an employer sponsorship.
Excellent.
Excellent. In regards to the 482 itself, so there are two categories, right? Do you want to cover up some of the differences between the categories with occupations who are in STSOL and the categories which can lead towards permanent residency with the occupations in MLTSSL as well? If you can touch base with those two categories for our viewers, it would be great.
So 482, as I said, let's say occupations like cook is on the short-term list. But if you have studied in Australia, and one other good thing to note, that a lot of students or a lot of applicants are not aware that they do not need the skills assessment if they've gained the qualification from Australia. So generally, most of the agents would tell you that, or let's say most of the people would assume that you need skills assessment for all the occupation. No. So if there is an exemption available if you did not study in Australia or did not gain any qualification for nominated occupation or related to the nominated occupation. Let's say, for example, cook. If you have gained a qualification in Australia by studying, you can apply for a waiver of your skills assessment. What you need to do is just that you have 2 years of work experience. Many people don't know these things. Right now, generally, as I said, cook can probably, let's say, see if they can, if they have long-term experience already 2 years or 3 years, they can be nominated as a chef, considering their cook work experience as well to be relevant to chef, because it's like a ladder. So you just go on a step 1 and then go to step 2. So the cook is a step 1. So your 2 years of experience as a cook can be counted towards a chef's application as well for a 482 visa. Now, other occupations, let's say, which are restaurant managers, transport company manager, there are occupations like this which are on a short-term list. Now, the problem only that if you did not hold a visa on 18th of April 2017, a 457 visa, or you were not an applicant for a 457 visa on 18th of April 2017, you don't have that transitional or grandfathering rule applying to you. So in that case, you don't have any option to apply for a permanent visa after 2 years. You can only renew that visa for another 2 years onshore, only once. And then if you want to later on extend your visa as well, you will have to go offshore to apply for a 482 visa and then be granted. Another requirement in the 482 visa in a short-term list is that you have to prove that you are a genuine temporary entrant, which is not applicable if you are in a medium and long-term list, right? Now, if you are in a medium and long-term list, like let's say, for example, a chef or motor mechanic or carpenter, or even let's say accountants. We have done many accountants 482 visas recently because they were not able to get an invite. Their employers like, we need this person. They agreed to sponsor them, right? Then we've got, let's say, IT and engineering fields as well that we can apply for. And these occupations can also lead to a permanent visa after you work in the occupation with the same employer for at least 3 years, and the employer can sponsor you for 186 visa under TRT stream.
So right. So basically, what you're saying is, even if they cannot get the 189 or 190 invitation, as long as they're working in the field, they meet the requirements for 482, there is a pathway for them to apply for 186 under the transitional stream after 3 years. So we've got a viewer with the similar question on this employer-sponsored category. She's asking if you're on a 482 visa, when is the company can apply 186? If you can cover that up.
If you are on a 482 visa, there are 2 ways you can go for a 186 visa. Number one, you complete while holding a 482 visa, you work with the company for 3 years, and after 3 years, company can apply for a 186 visa under TRT stream. Or you can also apply for 186 direct entry stream if you already have experience. Because if you're on 482 visa, that means you're already having 2 years of work experience, right? So once you complete another 1 year, you'll complete 3 years of work experience in your career in total, right? Full-time 3 years of work experience. Now in 186 direct entry stream, if you are able to get a positive skills assessment and get 6 each in IELTS, right, or let's say competent English basically in any of the tests, you can apply for 186 in 1 year's time, right, under the direct entry stream.
So what you're saying is that you use the 482 initially for the 2 years, and then you just renew that to get the 3 years before you transit straight to the 186, correct?
No, I mean, see, if the applicant is applying for a 482, And let's say, for example, I think Fardima is asking this question, correct? So if she has applied for a 482, that means she's already got that 482 visa, and if she's willing to apply for 186. Now, at the time of 482 visa application, she has already proved that she's got 2 years of work experience. So now she's got another 2 years or 4 years of 482 visa, right? Once she completes, if she's on a medium and long-term list, she can just complete 1 year and get a skills assessment, have 3 years of experience, apply for 186 direct entry stream.
Gotcha.
That's right.
Or
So even if
wait,
you have 3 years experience, they can apply for 186 direct stream, or they can still go through the transitional stream if they want to wait. Correct. So similar to that, Miss Pooja or Mrs. Pooja is asking what could be the options for accounting. So I guess from employer-sponsored point of view, that could be an option as well if she has the experience, right?
Yes, we've got many clients coming through. So another question that, let's say for accountants as well. So accountants, if you're working as an accountant already, I have a client who's been working as an accountant. She is completing 2 years in total in June, but her visa has expired in April. So what we did is we applied for a 482 visa still with only 22 months of experience, right? Why is because, by the time the case office is allocated, because the requirement is at the time of decision, right, for 2 years of experience. So what we did is we applied for a 482 visa. We waited for the nomination and SBS approval, and by that time she will complete the 2 years of experience, right? So let's say in this June she's completing 2 years of experience. So if you are in this kind of situation, you can also do this. Or let's say another client that I have, what we did is, because that guy had 4 months left in his 2 years of work experience to be completed. So we gave him two options, either to do this or apply for a student visa for a Masters of Research course, complete the 2 years of experience, and then if the company is still happy to sponsor, and if the company is not able to find any replacement for him, then they can apply for a 482 visa for him.
Awesome.
Yeah, possible. Yeah. Thanks, Vaibhav. There is similar question coming from Aruna regarding baker. So he has 3 years of experience as a baker. Can he apply 186? He already has a positive skill assessment.
No, the baker is not on the medium and long-term list and it's not on 106 visas list. But if Aruna, if you are on a 457 visa or 482 visa that was granted, as I said, or you were an applicant for 457 visa on 18th of April 2017, you can apply for 106 TRT if this is the case. If not, then you definitely have option to apply for a skill visa 491 or 190, because I think 491 will be open in regional New South Wales as well. And if I'm not wrong, Nirav from Melbourne can confirm whether baker is open for on Victoria's list for nomination.
Yes, it's available for 491 if you have a job offer later here in the regional, and like if you have more than 3 years experience, like 5 years experience as well, you may apply for 190 as well later on. So, but 491 definitely they can apply if they have a job offer later in regional.
That's correct.
Right.
So you've got option if you are on 482 visa or 457 visa, you can apply for 186, but you can't go for 186 direct entry stream. But because you have a skills assessment, you have an option to apply for a skill visa 190 or 491.
Right. Okay. Perfect. So, guys, what we'll do is we'll just cover up these questions along the way, but we'll try to retain, keep ourselves to the topics we're gonna discuss. So, I'll go to Vaishali and see what she has for this week's updates regarding immigration, into especially the general skill migration. Vaishali.
Sure. I think it's best to cover current state nomination trends, especially in this COVID-19 period. So I'll just give a brief on what the processing for different states is currently. So maybe I think usually every state is evidencing delays. Now there is a processing time difference between onshore offshore applications as well. I'll quickly start with a quick update with Australian Capital Territory first. The usual requirement for a nomination in ACT is, I believe, 13 weeks of stay, at least prior to we launch the nomination applications. But then they are granting waiver to this requirement. They should, like the applicant should have a continuous employment before they lodge a nomination. But currently there is a waiver available. If the applicants cannot return to Canberra because there is a travel ban in place, or let's say if they have to self-isolate for 14 days because of the isolation norms, or maybe if their work hours are reduced, or they have to take unpaid leaves, or they have lost their jobs, ACT will still consider them for the nomination. As long as Northern Territory is concerned, currently they have stopped accepting offshore applications. I think this will be in place until the ban is lifted, and then they may start accepting the offshore ones. But otherwise, for onshore applications or the existing applications are still under process according to their processing times. With Queensland, currently the BSNQ is closed for 190 applications, but their 491 program is still open. However, I think they're nominating only onshore applicants, not the offshore ones. They do have their quota reach for a couple of occupations like marketing specialist or finance manager. So even if you're onshore, you won't be able to apply for these occupations. I'll quickly move to South Australia. South Australia has recently made a couple of changes to their 190 and 491 nomination process. For 190, majority of the almost all occupations, they will now require 12 months of experience compared to previous 6 months of experience. So now the applicant should be working in the nominated occupation for at least 12 months before they are eligible for 190. Certain occupations are not eligible for 190 at all. These occupations mainly relate to finance and accounting, such as accountants, taxation accountant, financial advisors, financial managers, management consultants, etc. For 491, there is definitely a priority for health professionals and nurses. There are certain specified occupations like pharmacists, orthodontists, registered nurses, etc., who will be given priority for 190 and 491 applications. For 190, they should be working in the nominated occupation for 12 months, but for 490, there is a respite. Earlier, South Australia would require at least 3 months of experience before they lodge a 491. But now, as long as you are employed, as long as you have an offer for at least 40 hours a fortnight, they will be eligible for a 491 straight away. And these applications will be prioritized. The minimum points requirement will be only 65. South Australia has never worked on merit, and it doesn't intend to do so. Certain occupations like chef, cook, restaurant managers, they are now closed for offshore applicants. So now only onshore applicants will be able to apply for these occupations. For Tasmania, there is a change in category 3 applications, offshore applications. Now, there is a Tasmania skilled occupation list, and the only occupations which are on high demand will be considered for these overseas nomination categories. So as long as the occupation is in high demand, offshore applicants will be able to apply. I think the occupations in high demand will be mainly registered nurses, healthcare professions. In Victoria, there is no major change. They are processing applications according to their previous norms. Those who meet the eligibility requirements for Victorian program, they are able to submit the nomination applications, and it can continue to be assessed. In Western Australia, I think there have been delays in nominating applicants. Otherwise, the applications are still processing. Occupations which are under review, for example, chef, they may take a while because I think there is a great number of applications in the pool. So there may be delays in nominating applications which are currently under review.
And accountants are under review too in Perth.
Accountants, yeah, the most horrible occupation.
Yeah.
New South Wales, now there have been changes. Earlier this year, they said, up to last year, NSW would nominate even interstate applicants, but then this year they changed the policies. Now they wanted applicants. They would prioritize applications who would reside in NSW, but now there is a mandatory requirement. You should be living or working in NSW. There is a special list where the occupations are divided with additional criteria or no criteria. If the occupation requires additional criterion, has additional requirement, you should be living in NSW for at least 6 months before you lodge an application, and you must have worked in NSW for at least 1 year in the nominated occupation. If the occupation does not have any additional requirement, you should be residing in NSW for at least 6 months, or you should be living out of Australia. You cannot live interstate. Either 6 months of stay in NSW, or else be residing and employed in NSW for at least 1 month in the nominated occupation, if the occupation does not have any additional criterion. So yeah, there are ongoing delays in opening the 491 program in NSW. Earlier, they said that it would be opening in January, mid-January, but then I think it's getting delayed. We just hope it opens at least by July.
Should people be worried when they see that? Because we get clients asking the questions, and when they say no additional requirements, but it says limited, and then they freak out because, oh, limited, what does it mean?
Yeah, so I think it's no additional requirements, but the quota, like there are certain seats allotted in that particular occupation. So limited means they have started receiving applications.
Okay.
Yeah. For 491, we just hope that it opens soon. There are even offshore applicants, those applicants living in NSW will be able to be eligible for the 491, but yeah, only when it opens. Different states, they have also had different provisions for Section 48 barred applicants. Like Section 48 barred means those applicants who have had a visa refusal in Australia cannot apply while they are onshore. So those applicants who have received invitations, they have only 60 days to apply. But if they cannot fly out of Australia right now, the invitation would lapse. Now, to deal with this situation, I think almost every state, they have stopped accepting those applications who are Section 48 barred. They would ask us to wait until the ban is lifted or until they are able to travel outside, and then we will be able to lodge applications for those who have had visa refusals. So those applicants will have to wait. We have had many who have already received the invitations and who are worried about traveling outside. But let's see if we could find any solution or if there is any word from the department. I don't think there is any yet. But otherwise...
New South Wales make an exemption that those who got the invitation, they will still respect that. They will hold off for a while until the situation changes, and then they will honor that invitation. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think that's
right.
Yeah, even in Victoria, actually, they didn't announce on their website, but like we have a couple of clients who were Section 48. They already got the invitation, and their invitation was about to expire. So we tried to contact to the department, like in Victoria State, and they said that we should keep it in record, like the EY number which we have, which they received the invitation. And in the future, if the invitation is already expired, we can contact them with their updated residential address and the job offer letter if they get the invitation based on that. If they provide those two things again, they will receive the invitation again in the same EOI.
Okay.
Yeah, there may be some provision. In South Australia, they said those who are already received by them, they will hold their processing, and the new applications, we are not allowed to submit them. We have to wait until the 30th of June to submit these applications.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Offshore applications, like usually they have a very limited quota for offshore. So usually we have seen that the offshore applications are open only in July, but then they get filled quickly. So the same situation continues here. Right now, they're not encouraging offshore applications anyway. Even the visa grant is affected, I believe. There are no offshore grants for these visas. All the visas we have received are mainly for healthcare professionals and those who are onshore.
Let's see what Nirav has got to say with regards to the updates, because that's what a lot of people want to know, Nirav.
Yeah, absolutely. While you're there, Vaishali, I'll just cover up a few questions, then I'll come back to you later on as well. So Deep is asking about what are the requirements for 491 state nomination in Tasmania, if you can quickly cover that question.
Yeah, sure. Just to cover in brief, so for 491, Tasmania has different pathways. You should either be a graduate of Tasmania, at least 1 year of certificate or diploma level course is required. Another pathway will be working in Tasmania for at least 6 months full time. It may not be the nominated occupation. It could be any occupation from skill level 1 to 4. If it is level 4, of course, you have to show why the employer needs you. So it's a kind of labor market testing that has to be proven. After 6 months of employment, you will be eligible. Another category is for overseas applicants. If your occupation is on the TESOL list, you will be eligible to apply. The fourth pathway will be a small business owner. So if you are, if you have a successful business in your name, you will be eligible to apply for 491. I'm not going in much details. I'm just quickly covering these pathways.
Yeah, that's
And then it will depend on the applications. Like we will have to see how long they have stayed in Tasmania, what's their study background, whether they have a skill assessment or not, and it depends on many things.
And then also there is a pathway regarding if they have an immediate family back in Tasmania.
Immediate family member, yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Sure. Nirav, do you want to cover this next question? That is about the social work PR in Melbourne. So obviously Victoria in general, not just Melbourne. But does Victoria sponsor social workers?
Yes, actually, social work is available in Victoria, like in the state nomination occupation, but they require you to have 2 years of experience post qualification. Like if after your Bachelor of Social Work or Master of Social Work, if you have like 2 years of experience, you can apply for state nomination directly with minimum 65 points, and you can get the invitation like easily. But if you don't have an experience, then I think they're not giving any exemptions. Like they can straight away refuse it.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Nirav. We'll just go to Daminderji next to cover up the partner visas, and then I'll ask him a few questions. We already have a couple of people asking you particularly about 190 visa conditions for WA. If you want to cover that up,
one quick question straight away before we go into the partner one. Should I do that?
Yeah, absolutely, you can.
Look, it's nothing too different. So it's the same 190 if you are invited. If you are asking about what happens upon invitation, then you stay down here for 2 years, like most of the states actually do. And the minute you're invited, again, the process of invitation is, upon invitation, you just got to produce either a letter that says or job offer that you have for 6 months, or if you've been working in that occupation for 6 months, that leads to an invitation. So don't ask me about points-wise, how many were the last points and 65, 85 and whatnot, because then this conversation is not going to end. But if you're talking specifically about the visa conditions, if I read that condition correctly, upon grant, then you need to be in that state for 2 years because that's what you signed off on. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Perfect. Thanks, Daminderji. If you can just quickly cover about the partner visa. Next question is similar to that. The partner visa 100. The first date of arrival, if I'm reading the question correctly. If you want to discuss that point.
Let's talk about love. Let's talk about partner visas, right? This is what everybody wants to do, right? So if everything else fails, if all the GSM doesn't come true, if you don't meet the 190, just fall in love, get married. I mean, look, there's a serious side of what we do as well, right? So as migration agents, we advise them. Nothing seemingly has changed with regards to any latest updates, okay? Everything still applies, the 309, 100, offshore. If you are talking about prospective spouse visas, you need to still demonstrate that you still got a 12-month de facto evidence before you apply for that. If you're talking about being onshore, applying for the 820, 801, then we can go into that. Or if you're talking about de facto aspects of it at the same time, there's two streams of it. So if you're talking about specifically updates, nothing has changed. Meaning, there has been an increase of applications. So they are still going to be checking. They still want to be ensuring specifically, which I have noticed, I'm sure you guys can agree, de facto part of it, because everybody is thinking, hang on, I don't want to just get married straight away because it's a big commitment. How about I apply for a de facto evidence? And then they find themselves, ooh, I only got about 8, 9, 10, 11 months of de facto evidence. Don't go down that way. You don't have the evidence, don't even think that, oh, chalo, I'm just going to apply and see what happens. You're going to get knocked back, which means that $7,700 that you're just going to lose, which is non-refundable. So don't go down that way. If you're already all good, everything else is happening, you are fully in love, get married. Go and get that done. So that process, for some people, especially in WA, you struggle a bit because you can't register your relationship like how you can do in other states. So unfortunately, they can't produce that element to go by instead of getting married, if you know what I'm trying to say. So in terms of documentation-wise, nothing has changed. You still need to show genuine, ongoing relationship. Is that happening in stage 1? Is that still happening in stage 2? After 22 months, if they knock on your door and say, hey, hello, I'm looking for so-and-so, and 2 different parties show up, bye-bye, and it has happened at the same time. So show that it's ongoing, is genuine in every aspect of it. Financial, social, who knows that? Do your family and friends are aware of that? So sorry, I'm getting into the nitty-gritty of it, which we always end up doing. But generally speaking, I'm looking at a question from Alam. Can I just jump into that question at the same time again?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So partner visa 820 applied October 2018. How does it gonna take? So I think what he's saying is that how long is it gonna take? First stage, the normal processing time in the good old Department of Immigration tells you 22 months to 24 months. That is all dependable on what information you gave at the same time. Was it a decision-ready application? Did you have anything funny to provide them that you were unable to provide? A case officer has asked you something that maybe is just stretched a little bit more, which usually means police clearances sometimes. For some reason or other, some people are not able to get that. Don't quote us, don't quote anyone down here, because we cannot say in 22 months you should get your 820. It just doesn't work that way. Okay, it just doesn't. Some people get that earlier if your circumstances are such that you have a child, your wife is pregnant. You can influence the case officer's decision by putting that thing that says it's imperative that they grant you that. You just want to. You can do that, and I've experienced that. Rule of thumb: 20 to 22 months. First stage, you're done. If that answers your question.
I would like to add something here. So I think if it takes longer, sometimes it's good for you. The reason is because, see, let's say if you go for a stage 1, which is 820, and then you go for a stage 2, which is 801, you'll have to also pay an agent for both services, right? Now, if your application goes more than 24 months, you directly get the 801. So let's say, Alam, for example, your case, if it's good for you if it gets decided after October 2020, the reason is because then you're likely to get 801 directly. So you don't have to go through the another process of applying for 801 and wait for its decision for another 1 year or so, right?
Yeah, but a lot of people don't want to wait.
Vishali as well, right, Vishali?
Yeah, the same thing happened. Like, we had a complicated case. We lodged it in the end of 2016. So complicated, yes, it took us a while. It took almost 3 years to receive the decision. But then, yeah, the decision was bang on. It was 801, 820 granted at the same time, and we lost our agent fees.
So are they still happily married? Are they all good?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, the relationship was genuine. Yeah.
Right. So so even if there's a delay, there's high likely chance they will get the 801 granted if it's exceed to more than 24 months. That's the advice you're getting.
Yeah, but does that automatically kick in though? Because you know what I'm saying. You're right about because it's supposed to, right? Because if you've exceeded that and it just goes through not halfway, right? Full, correct?
That's correct, because see, the cooling off period is 24 months, technically speaking, right? Let's say I'm using a cooling off period because it's general layman language that people will understand, that there is a stage 1 and stage 2, because the department wants to see that your relationship is lasting for 2 years, right? And then you can qualify for 801. Now, because the department has taken longer and your relationship has already lasted for 2 years, you can directly get 801. So that's why I said, it's good for Alam. Let's say Alam's question is that how long is going to take. Actually, if I was you, I would have actually loved that if the department takes more time, because I have to spend less money.
So don't even, Alam, so don't rock the sleeping bear. Just let the bear sleep. Let it hibernate for a while, and then...
Right. Thanks, Daminderji. I'll go to Nirav and cover up how this COVID-19 is affecting the visa processes. Before I'll just cover up a few other live questions. Yeah.
Yes. So I'll be discussing about the visa holders who are here in Australia, and different kind of visas, like visitor visa. If you're on student visa, if you're here, how it can affect the current situation. So for example, if your parents, if your relatives come here in Australia and they are on a visitor visa for 1 year or 3 years, so and they are not able to travel due to travel restriction here in Australia and in your country as well, and there are no flights. So definitely you need to apply for the new visitor visa before that expires. So there are few applicants, they have the question they have the visa for 1 year, but the maximum stays for 3 months or 6 months. So they need to understand that the visa is actually for 3 months only, once you enter in Australia. So you need to apply for the new visa before that stay period expires. So, and some of the visa holders have the condition no further stay. So they need to apply for the waiver of the no further stay condition well in advance. so that they can't be unlawful after 3 months. So it's better to apply always in advance. So that takes around 2 weeks currently. So if you waive off that condition, you can get the visa extension, and you can stay here until the flights will start, and you can go back to your country. So that's specifically for a visitor visa holder, like for your parents or for your relatives, or even someone come here for on holiday visa, or like on the purpose of tourist or holiday. The second most affected will be the student visa holders. So for student visa holders, it depends. Like if you have already completed your course and you plan to go back to your country, but if you're not able to travel, then what you can do? You need to apply for a visitor visa again in that case, so that you can extend your stay here legally and wait until the flights will start. And the second, if they want to apply for the temporary graduate visa, like 485 or something, if they're eligible, they should do that one. But they need to make sure that, like for 485, they require the PD or IELTS or something. Sometime like they might have done before 3 years, and nowadays the PD dates are not available. So they need to understand that scenarios as well. If your study is about to finish in June or July, they need to start preparing for the PD, or at least book an exam which is available, like IELTS or the TOEFL, whichever the next date available. Because if there will be no dates available during June, July, or August, then most of the applicants' visa is about to expire in August. They might need to go for like different visas, and it will be like expensive for them. So yeah, you can go for the TR visitor visa, and even you can apply for student visa extensions if your course is not complete yet. Like you have the COE, your 6 months is still remaining for the semester. You can go for the student visa extension. Like Australian immigration.
Can they do a 408?
Pardon?
Can they do a 408 as well?
Yeah, they can go for the 408 if they don't have any other visa options available. If their visa is expiring in next 28 days, and they can apply for that. Definitely, if they're not working in healthcare sector, it will be similar like a visitor visa. Like they will get just to stay here. There will not be any work right. But if they are working in healthcare sector, then they can get a work rights as well. And so students like they are getting benefits from most of the states and the federal government as well, like in terms of rent relief from the state government, and there are like financial hardship package. Like in Victoria, they released 45 million package as well. So you can go through Victorian government website and try to see if you are eligible. You can get the help from them. That will be beneficial. You can access your super as well if you are eligible. Like if you're already in Australia for more than 12 months, it depends. You need to check with your accountant. So these are the ways like student visa holders can get like benefits and how they can survive this situation, because they are the one who are most affected during this situation. Apart from that,
okay.
If you're on a 482 holder, like 482 visa or like a 457 visa, and your employer reduce your work hours, then like as per condition of the 482, you are doing the breach of the visa condition. But due to current situation, they will not consider as a breach of condition if they reduce your work hours. But if they let you go, if they fire you or something, then definitely you need to find a new employer within 60 days, because that consider like breach of condition. You can't stay here more than 60 days. So that's for someone who are a 482 visa holder. And yes, as we discussed at 408, they introduced that stream. So that's like for the critical sectors, health sectors, and specifically there are no fees involved if you get an exemption for that. So if you have financial hardship, you can get that option as well for 408. Because sometime in the visitor visa, you need to pay $345 as well, like when you are applying for the visa. And if you apply silver, that will be subsequent charge as well, $700 as well.
So hence why I was just particular about the 408, because in the essence of COVID-19 hardships and money, notwithstanding agent fees and what they charge, because that visa, from my understanding, and I'm happy to share that with everybody else, is that the department has said that if you are unable to apply anything else and you don't have the money, you can apply for this. If you're not even in the essential critical sector, you will be granted this visa, really, effectively. But then you work out your options for various reasons, like you just said, wanting to sit for the PTE exam once it opens or whatever you wanted to do. But it keeps you here legally. It's the whole purpose.
Yes, yeah. Yes, we salute.
So, but again, they will not get the work right.
That's a small price to pay when all you wanted to do was to become eligible for your 485 eventually. When, if you think about it, it's just a short-term period, 3 months, 4 months, or whatever the case is. like I said, it's a personal preference from the clients what they want to do.
So there is a question coming to that regarding 408. So let's say in a situation where you have lodged your 408 and if it's refused because immigration doesn't think you are working in a critical sector or whatever, would you be barred with the Section 48? The Section 48 would affect you.
Funny enough, I know who this person is who's asking these questions. She knows. We've discussed this several times. Look, what do you think? Do you think she's become Section 48 bar if you get a 408 refuse?
If she's got a bridging visa only and no other substantive visa, then Section 48 bar will apply. If she has if the applicant has the substantive visa right now, then the Section 48 bar does not apply to you.
That's right. That's right.
And Nikita, you know the answer. We've discussed this several times. I hope now that's more clearer to you than any other time.
So as it's clear that as long as you have a substantive visa, it does not apply to you. But if you were on a bridging visa A for the 408, it definitely applies to you. You will not be able to apply for any other visa except certain approved visa like partner visa, protection visas and stuff.
Correct.
Thanks, Nirav, and thanks, Dharmendra. We'll just quickly discuss a few other live questions we are getting. So there is Jinal asking regarding accounting, obviously most discussed occupation. How many years of work experience required to getting PR in accounting? Anyone wants to take out that question?
500 million years is what you need. Sorry, I'm joking, but Raif, this is your territory.
Depends on the state you are you wish to settle down. If you are in South Australia, it will definitely require at least 1 year.
Exactly.
I believe this girl is studying in South Australia, so 12 months study and 12 months of experience for the state sponsorship. Right. Nirav, there's next question coming to you from Paris. If the company is based in Melbourne, I'm staying in regional area and working from home. Will that satisfy the condition for 491?
Actually, if you see for the Victorian State Government 491 invitation, they require that company should be registered and operating from the regional area. So if they have a branch over there which has a different ABN, then it should be all right. But if they don't have a branch, but if you're working from home from your and you are in regional, I think you are not eligible for the 491 invitation.
Okay, perfect. Sure, there is Mansi Mohit asking. She's already on 489, spent 7 months in South Australia as an electronics engineer. If she wants to apply for 189, she should wait or just complete the 489 requirements. What's your recommendation?
Yeah, actually, see, if you can definitely submit an expression of interest. You submit your expression of interest. We don't know how many points you have, but if you are invited quickly, there is no harm in applying 189. If it's taking that long, more than a year or more than 2 years, then definitely you will be meeting the requirements for 887.
But Vishali, does South Australia sponsor for 190 visa even if you've got a 489 from another state? Because I know that many states refuses to.
He's asking if she can apply for 189, not 190.
Yeah,
189 is fine. I'm just asking about 190.
Yeah, no, 190 they will.
That's right.
Okay.
So the next question to you, Vaibhav, regarding 482. Hamid is asking if you require a skill assessment for 482.
As I mentioned before as well, that you don't need the skills assessment unless you are in a trade occupation. There is a list of occupations and the country against it. If you are holder of a passport from those countries and your occupation is on that particular list for a mandatory skills assessment for a 482 visa, then only you need the skills assessment. Rest of all the occupations like accountant and all other occupations, you don't need. There are only few trade occupations that requires a skills assessment, and that too can be waived off if you have gained a qualification by studying in Australia.
All right. Thanks, Vaibhav. While you're there, you can answer this the next question as well from Ethel. She's working as an accountant in Darwin on 485 visa at the moment. What are her options? Her husband is still in Sydney. Will that be any option for 491 or 190?
I would say, Ethel, you should definitely continue working in Darwin, and also I would suggest that because your partner is not living in Darwin, so anti-government can later on come back and say that we are not going to approve your nomination because your partner is not living and we can't see a full commitment to live in NT. So I would recommend that whatever has happened is fine, but then you should ask your partner to also move into NT. And once you complete 6 years of full-time work experience as an accountant in Northern Territory, you can apply for a 190 and 491 nomination, because NT government does nominate for 190 as well on case-by-case basis if you have met, even if you have met the requirement for 491. But if not, then they will give you 491 for sure. We haven't seen anybody getting refusal for 491 if they have met the criteria for Northern Territory nomination.
Correct. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. The next question is related to employer sponsored as well. If you can answer that, how can he get 482? Mr. Saurabh is asking. He has 90 points in accounting but no experience. What's the recommendation? He's based in South Australia, so I'll go to Vaishali after that. But what's your recommendation?
I would say, Saurabh, you cannot apply for a 482 visa because, as I said before, initially when we explained the 482, that the applicant is required to prove that they have got at least 2 years of work experience. So if you have 2 years of work experience in Australia or overseas within the last 5 years, then you can qualify for 482. If not, then I think my colleague Vaishali can answer this question about state nomination options for South Australia.
Yeah, so currently you have an option of applying for a 491 nomination, provided you have studied at least 50% of your education in South Australia. It's definitely more than at least a year. And then if you have worked in South Australia as an accountant, or maybe as an assistant accountant, junior accountant, at least part-time, 40 hours a fortnight, you would qualify for 491.
Cool.
Thanks, Vaishali. You can cover up the next question as well, Vaishali. Jitendra is asking about skill assessment in Master of Teaching Early Childhood. He's asking if he can apply for skill assessment with 2 year study in Master of Business Project Management in Asia Pacific College in Sydney and Charles Darwin University Master of Teaching. So basically, he's trying to combine 4 years of higher education for the skill assessment.
Yeah, you can apply as long as you have studied at least 4 years in Australia. You can definitely apply for a skill assessment, and you may have access to a waiver for English requirements. Otherwise, the teaching body, they will require 7788 on academic IELTS. But if you have 4 years of education, they can register you, and even the same waiver for assessment, you will have to request. In many of the cases, a waiver is accepted. In many, they have not accepted. But for registration, at least, it would be easy. With 4 years of studies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Shali. Mr. Dhaminderji, this is from Western Australia. If you want to cover it up, basically they're asking in general, is there any restriction or changes from Western Australia you want to share?
I mean, are they talking about the social distancing changes, or what is he talking about? Sorry.
In general, the visa changes.
Now, look, restriction changes in Western Australia. Look, if we are talking about all of this stuff that we're talking about, look, there's nothing more except for what I think we've already covered. Some occupations are already under review. Those are the elements that, perhaps one just needs to be mindful of. Aside from that, no, what previously used to be you needed to provide 12 months of evidence when you are invited. Now they've brought that down to 6. So they've kind of made it a little bit more easier instead of being more restrictive. So if that is the question, there's nothing seemingly alarming. I think I know why he's asking that, because you're getting a lot of people who want to move from another state and they want to come down here because for various reasons they realize that, oops, I don't have options for whatever various occupations is. So people are coming and then they are asking, oh, what are the changes? So I think they should ask themselves first before they come down based on the occupation. Okay. First and foremost, 190 and 491, if you've not studied in WA, don't bother coming down. You don't qualify. It's as simple as that. I think that really needs to get into them.
But what if they can come and study 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, but a lot of them don't want to. So if they want to, those who want to come down, thumbs up. Pump money into the Western Australian economy. Come on down. No problems, But then they're going to meet that requirement from that standpoint. They don't have the requirements like in Tasmania where, or some of the places that we mentioned, you just study for 1 year or you do something else, you're qualified. Here is definitely 2 years. Mandatory.
Right.
So it's a little bit of investment, Tejas.
Absolutely. Now, the next question is a general open floor question. What is the best option for chef if anyone wants to take up the question?
I think get as much experience as possible before you really want to entertain the idea, because there's already too many people onshore. I think that's my opinion.
Yeah, that's true. Even South Australia, they have two chefs. So right now, 109 will be the option. So yeah, just try to claim as many points as you could, and then submit an EOI. Wait for an invitation.
Yeah, chef.
So I believe
probably
two states covering up as of now: Victoria and South Australia for chef for offshore applicants.
Yeah,
also, yes, right now, Northern Territory is closed, but you can also apply for Northern Territory. But the first thing is that the applicant will have to obtain a positive skills assessment, because if they're offshore, they may not have obtained a positive skills assessment. To get a positive skills assessment, you need to have at least 3 years of work experience on top of the qualification, which is equivalent to Certificate 4 in Australia. Right. So once you get a skills assessment, and depending on how many years of experience you have, there are plenty of options. You can also apply for a visitor visa, come down to Australia, and then seek other options as well for 190 and 491 from different states.
Right.
Okay.
Now this is this is a on-fire question. When is the New South Wales opening up 491?
491, I believe that they will only open up in July now, because I guess they're, initially when this financial year started, the current financial year, the regional bodies were the one who were managing the regional nomination programs, and they actually gave out so many invitations. So I guess there would be not many, places available from the program. So therefore, the government, NSW government, is not opening up for 491 right now, and I believe that it will only open after July.
Okay.
Right. Thanks, Vaibhav. Nirav, what do you expect the structural engineering? So question from Amrit is basically he's a structural engineer, 85 points. He'll be finishing his PY in October. So I believe he'll go to 90 points after October. When can he expect 189? Obviously not from Victoria, but 189 in general.
Yeah, so there are once he completes his professional, he'll have 90 points. And I think he should have applied for his 85 points at EOI by now if he has skill assessment, because there are chances with 85 points as well in the future if immigration invite more number of invitation in few months. However, if he doesn't get for 85 points, then once he complete professional year, then he will have 90 points. And with 90 points, definitely there are more chances to get the invitation compared to 85. And with the 90 points, the current waiting time is I think from February 2020. And however, currently there are not many applicants who are able to do their PT and NATI as frequently as possible previously, right? So there will be less applicants who might have 90 points in coming future. So that's why there will be high chance that he can expect an invitation with 90 points.
Okay, perfect. So I'll be going to you for the last question. Kunal is asking, his 187 visa has been refused. Right now he's on AAT. His question is about 491, what he should be doing. He has finished Master of Professional Accounting, and he's asking about the English requirement and his pathway towards 491.
Okay, Kunal. So you have, Kunal, actually you have two options from here. Number one is that you can apply for, if you are working in the same occupation that you were sponsored for 187 visa, and you are working in the regional area, then probably you can obtain a positive skills assessment for that occupation. And if you have gained 3 years of full-time work experience, you can apply for 494. Or if you if you have studied an accounting degree, then you will need either 7 each or a professional year to obtain a positive skills assessment. And once you obtain a positive skills assessment, you have different options to go to regional areas, like let's say Northern New South Wales, where you have to work at least 12 months and live in a regional area as well. As an accountant, you have to work. And also, let's say, a Northern Territory, where you can work 6 months full-time as an accountant. You can go to Victoria and find a job offer as an accountant in regional Victoria. So there are options you can obtain. It's not compulsory requirement that you have to have a 7 each. If you are able to at least meet 50 points and be able to get a positive skills assessment through professional year. But if you don't have a professional year, 7 each becomes very, very mandatory for you.
So is that what you're suggesting to him? Because he's on an AAT, he can actually buy the time because you just don't know when his AAT is going to come up. Is that the reason why?
See, there are, as I said, he can also apply for a 494 if he is able to get a positive skills assessment. And if he's still working for the same employer who sponsored for 187, we can also apply for 494, right? If not, then obviously, yes, he's got a bridging visa A right now because he had applied for 187, and he's probably waiting for, because obviously the question is not complete. So, but I'm assuming that he would be in AAT, so he's got full-time work rights as well. So he can move to any of these regional areas and complete the work experience.
Cool.
Right. Thanks, Webo. Last question I will be going to Vaishali. Kriti has finished Diploma of Nursing from South Australia and has applied for the expression of interest for 491. She's just asking about the waiting period and stuff. So is it still taking 12 weeks to get the invitation? What is the current situation?
Yeah, for nurses, it shouldn't take that long. I'm not sure if you have already submitted a state nomination application or not. If you have not, it's better to consult us. We can help. But yeah, otherwise, nurses shouldn't be 12 weeks.
I agree that probably the client has just lodged an EOI because according to
EOI, that's correct. Yeah.
he has only lodged an EOI. So also probably Akriti, you will have to lodge a state nomination application which is separate from the EOI.
That's a good point, though, because
Correct.
that's where the confusion is, though.
That's correct.
A lot of applicants who try to lodge it themselves. They do that. They only lodge the expression of interest. They don't know sometime, or they don't lodge the state nomination application, because every state has a different the process for the state nomination. Obviously, New South Wales just required to lodge the expression of interest, and then they will invite you to lodge the state nomination. Whereas Victoria and South Australia are different.
So they don't know that they need to come to Aussizz, specifically how Our Lady in South Australia is going to massage the situation, look into the crystal ball and say, bingo, no longer 12 weeks, 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No, to be honest, Vaishali will agree with me. There has been a bit of ups and downs for the waiting period of some of the applicants, obviously non-health related occupations. But I'm sure everyone is working hard to get that backlog sorted as well. So it should be back on track under 12 weeks, hopefully soon. Yeah. Now that's it, guys. Thank you very much for joining. That was the session for this week's weekly update for the immigration updates in regards to the employer-sponsored or skilled migration or partner visas or any other temporary visa holders affecting with the COVID-19. If you have any questions, you are still welcome to leave it in the comment section. One of our migration agents will be answering that through the comments, and we'll try to cover up as many as questions in the next week's session. This kind of session, we are trying to bring it up every Friday, if possible. We'll be doing every Friday with collective live sessions with the migration agents from all over Australia. So bring your questions, be live at 4 p.m. every Friday, Melbourne time, and you can ask your questions live to our migration panel. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. I wish everyone have a great weekend. Happy Friday.
Thank you. Be safe, guys. See you.
Tejas, you're going to keep this running while you keep the other one off, or how does this work?
It's